But it seems like the reason this person thinks they have cancer is based on it's based on their paranoia that's induced by this drug. So it seems odd to say that this person actually knows they have cancer, even though they do have cancer and they believe that they have cancer. But it seems like a kind of false belief. So that's typically the three criteria that are necessary for knowledge in epistemology: is justified true belief. But Gettier comes along and says, look, I want to show you a couple of cases where justified true belief is not enough. Before we get started, Gettier makes 2 points that are essential to his argument. These are the 2 points essentially that both of his cases hang on. So he says, first, it's possible for somebody to be justified in believing something that is false. Say you're in a court of law or something like that, and all the evidence points to a particular person committing a crime. And you could be justified in believing that. However, it's not necessarily the case that this person committed the crime. That's why the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove this person's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's possible. And the second thing is that it's sort of a law of inference. And it says if you're justified in believing a proposition P, and that proposition P entails another proposition Q, then you're also justified in believing Q as well as believing P. So the proposition that if you're justified in believing that the Pentagon is a 5-sided structure, and if something is a 5-sided structure, it implies that it's a polygon, it has more than one sides, then you can say that you're justified in believing that the Pentagon is a polygon in addition to the Pentagon having 5 sides. So something along those lines, which seems to make perfect sense. So the first case is Smith and Jones. And Smith and Jones have both applied for a particular job. And Smith gets it upon good authority from the CEO that Jones is going to get the job. And the CEO is the one who makes the decision. And Smith also knows, because he's inspected his pocket for whatever reason, that Jones has 10 coins in his pocket. So the first proposition that Smith is justified in believing, according to Gettier, is that Jones is the man who will get the job, and Jones has 10 coins in his pocket. So from that, he can infer that the man who will get the job will have 10 coins in his pocket. And it seems like if he's justified in saying the first, then he's also justified in saying the second. But it just so happens that it turns out to be the case that Jones does not get the job, and Smith actually gets the job. But it also happens that Smith had, maybe they're in his jacket pocket or something like that. Smith also has 10 coins in his pocket. So it turns out that the case of where the proposition that the man who will get the job has 10 coins in his pocket is justified. It's justified because the first statement was justified, and the first statement entails the second statement. So it's justified. It's true that the man who gets the job will have 10 coins in his pocket, because Smith gets the job and he has 10 coins in his pocket. And furthermore, Smith also believes that the man who gets the job will have 10 coins in his pocket. But Gettier says, we don't really want to count this as knowledge, because Smith didn't form this belief based upon the fact that he was going to get the job and that he had 10 coins in his pocket. It just turned out to be coincidental that that was the case. But it still met this 3 criteria of justified true belief. And therefore, it seems like justified true belief is not enough in this case to count as knowledge. Now, the second case is based on sort of the logic of disjunction. And we talked about this. And disjunction is an either-or. So essentially, all you need is either one of these clauses on one side of the operator either-or to be true, either the first one or the second one. As long as one of those is true, then you're justified in believing that that entire statement is true. So in this case, Smith has evidence for this following proposition, that Jones owns a Ford. And the reason that he gives for this is that Jones has owned a Ford in his entire life, and Jones has just come to pick him up in a Ford. So Smith is justified in believing that Jones owns a Ford because it's been historically the case, and he just recently saw evidence of that. So he gets to these, these other three propositions that are related to another friend of Smith who's called Brown. So he really doesn't know where Brown is. But the three propositions are either Jones owns a Ford or Brown is in Boston, either Jones owns a Ford or Brown is in Barcelona, either Jones owns a Ford or Brown is in Brest-Litovsk. And all of those statements are true or justified according to this justification that Jones owns a Ford based on the logic of disjunction, because the first disjunct is justified and Jones believes that it's true. But it just so happens to be the case that Jones does not own a Ford. Apparently when he came to pick up Smith, he was actually driving a rented car, and he had sold his Ford or something like that. But it also coincidentally turns out to be the case that Brown is in one of these particular places. Let's see, which one is it? Yeah. It doesn't matter which case it is. Let's say that Brown is in Boston, right? So this first statement turns out to be true, that Brown is in Boston. But the reason that Smith believes that particular proposition to be true is not because he thinks Brown is in Boston, but it's because he believes that Jones owns a Ford. So in this particular case, this proposition, either Jones owns a Ford or Brown is in Boston, it's justified because Smith is justified in believing that Jones owns a Ford. Therefore, that first disjunct is what is justified. Therefore, the entire statement is justified. It's true, but it's not true because Jones owns a Ford. It's true because Brown is actually in Boston. So it just turns out to be true, and Smith believes it. So once again, you have another case that has justified true belief, and it doesn't seem like to be enough to count as knowledge, because the reasons that Smith believes that particular proposition to be true is based on faulty information. So Gettier believes that these two cases actually show that justified true belief is not enough for knowledge. One thing, I'm actually thinking about changing up some of the readings for the course, so I'm going to try to get those posted tomorrow, so you guys can go ahead and get started on that for Thursday. I mean, the reading for tomorrow will stay the same, but the reading on Thursday may be different. And also I'm going to try to get up criteria for the paper, how I'm going to be grading the paper, so you guys can get started on that as well. Okay, see you Tuesday.